Great, Glyn. Thanks for stealing my act. Okay, it's my job to open the batting tonight and get you all warmed up. So, welcome to the Plymouth Brethren's second annual summer camp. I'm going to start, if I may, with a prayer. My first joke got ruined because I was going to say this is a joyous occasion and you'll think, yeah, bride and groom, but of course I was going to say Bolton rarely get a point away this early in the season, and of course Bolton didn't get a point away today. Can I, on behalf of my wife Claire, I'm Joe, Claire's dad, Kate, dad, she said I shouldn't have a drink. Can I welcome you all to the wedding of our daughter, Catherine, Bridget, Patricia, the girl with 3 first names, the girl who married Joseph, Lawrence, Martin, the boy with 3 first names, one more surname. I think it's only fair, really, to welcome you on behalf of Glyn and Jane, because without their tremendous hospitality and generosity, we'd all be sat down now in a church hall in Lancashire having pasty and peas. I'm told it's raining and we've just all been bowled out for 98. The bride, Catherine, Bridget, Patricia, or Katie as we know her. We thought we'd given her, as indeed with our other 2 children, we thought we'd given her a very original name. We honoured a great-grandmother, a grandmother and 2 aunties with the names we gave her. And we thought, Katie, it's original, you know, it's old-fashioned. Until she was about 3 and she went running off in British Home Stores and her mother shouted, Katie, and about 6 little girls came running towards us. Still got them? Yep. I wasn't going to mention that, but since you brought it up. Those of you who know the shy, retiring, somewhat diffident Kate of today will be amazed to learn that when she was young she was quite a chatterbox. I'm told by her mother that she learned to speak at a precociously early age, and she obviously had difficulties with the English language. She thought it needed improving, so she set about it very quickly. She spent a lot of time explaining to her little sister that bananas were lello and that you wrote with a pencil. She used to like helping her mother, giving her some advice about how she should put her content lexes in, and she pointed out to her mother once that Daddy was Mummy's Buster. All very charming, but of course having such a precocious child could have drawbacks, because I remember bringing her back from a bonfire party at my brother's when she was reporting back to Mum, and she reported that Daddy had drank 3 big cups of beer and then drived home. So I was grounded for a little while after that. But she was an absolute delight. She was a lovely child. She was sweet, warm, obviously very bright. She read voraciously. I mean, there are not many children that can repeat the whole of a Roald Dahl revolting rhymes book as she'd learnt to do. I bet you think you know this story. You don't. The real one is much more gory. I suppose she was 25 by the time she did that. But it is still her party piece. And it will be on later in the barn. And those of you who don't get to stay, because you've got to catch the... It's on YouTube. She was not into anything vaguely energetic. She wasn't into sport really, well, apart from the Wanderers. But of course the Wanderers is more of a religion than sport, isn't it? So she sat with me from the age of 8 till about 16 at the Reebok. Well, at Burnham initially, and then the Reebok. But she had she just kind of sailed through childhood. She was a student. She was a good student. She was head girl, and then of course she got to Oxford. How could you not be proud to particularly when all my mates were paying a fortune to send their kids to private school and were only getting into ordinary universities. If you've got a deep-seated inferiority complex, you can bask. So she went to Oxford, and it didn't please her. She didn't like it that much. And again, we were even more proud of her. Eventually, we put up a lot of resistance. But when she found it all a bit boring and old-fashioned and lacking in any real moral purpose, and she decided that she would leave, eventually you think, well, you know, we did put up a stiff resistance and tried to persuade her to stay, but the golden key, etc. But I mean, we had in the end to admire her strength of character to do that, to take that decision. And of course, as parents, you worry because she followed that by going off around the world, over to Australia and New Zealand, and you do worry a bit. But then, of course, she came back. She went to London. She chose a proper course and did very well. And I'm told that she missed the first by the same fine margin by which I missed the third. There's nothing wrong with the pass degree. And of course, today I'm obviously absolutely delighted that she's decided to choose to enter the profession that has provided a profession that I love and that has provided me with a fabulous employment and a very comfortable living for 30 years. But of course, she's been very lucky. I think it was George Bernard Shaw who said, in response to a society beauty who suggested to them that perhaps they should get married and have children who would be brilliant and beautiful, I think he replied, yes, madam, but on the other hand, they might get my looks and your brains. Well, of course, Katie was very lucky because she got her mother's good looks and her mother's brains. One hates to think about the alternative. I know it's a bit of a, well, I know she's a bit of a feminist, and I know it's a bit of a cliche, and I know she doesn't do blushing, but I think you'll all agree with me that she looked absolutely fantastic today. Etiquette dictates that I make various thank yous, and I'm not going to bore you all to tears like one does by going through a whole list of names. I'm just going to kind of encapsulate it, but I have to start by saying that when she told us that the reception was not going to be in the palatial surroundings of the Reebok, but in a field in an obscure part of the country, her mother was filled with dread. I, on the other hand, thought, well, I might save a few bob. As indeed I have. Believe me, you've got better wine than you would have done if I'd have had total control. We were reassured though when we came down on a recce in May, and we saw what a magnificent spread this is, and we saw the possibilities. Although we were a bit worried about the cluttered barn, but it's amazing what they've done with it. And as we lawyers say, res ipsa loquitur, the facts speak for themselves. It's been a truly, well, until the speeches started, it's been a truly magnificent day. I've not seen this level of organisation since, well, I wasn't around on D-Day actually, but I've read a lot about it. We have to thank, again, Glyn and Jane, because, and a myriad of other helpers. I think lots and lots of people have been doing lots and lots all week. I mean, how they put this up amazes me. We've got a little one that we bought from B&Q that takes 4 of us all morning. Tom will tell you. But there's just one person in particular I'd like to thank, apart from Glenn and Jane, and that's my other daughter, Helen, who has, apart from organising... apart from organising an amazing bridal shower, has done nothing but sew, paint and plan for the last 6 months. I turn now to Joseph Lawrence Martin, the boy with 3 first names and no surname. It's every father's dread that their daughter will bring home a bloke with whom one has absolutely nothing in common. And if you're from Bolton, it's an absolute nightmare, the possibility that they might bring home a bloke who supports a team in Manchester. So when she said that he was a Devon Red, I went on the internet for prices. Extraordinary rendition. It's not as expensive as you might think. Happily, upon getting further and better particulars, that's a lawyer's job, I found that in fact she'd got this bloke who was a proper real ale drinking football supporter who supported a struggling team. Through thin and thin. I'm not going to talk any more about Joe because that's Robin's job to ruin his night. But I must say this, Joe's come up to the north on a number of occasions and he's been to a few parties at our house and our relative's house, and as you'll know, Joe comes from a family of artists, and as he's got to know my brothers and sisters and their children, he's realised that he's joining another family of artists, albeit of a somewhat different variety. My old principal, who was a magistrates court hack, used to say that when he started his career, he'd stand up in the magistrates court and he'd got no idea what he was going to say. And by the end of his career, he'd sit down and have no idea what he'd said. So, before this speech gets onto YouTube, as surely it will, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to finish, you'll all be delighted. But I understand that it is customary to give some advice to the bride and groom. And having been married for the best part of 30 years to the same woman, I think that I can perhaps give them a piece of advice. So Kate, when he's in the doghouse, when you're annoyed with him, tell him why. He's a bloke. Hints don't work. You need to spell it out in black and white and underline it. And Joe, if she does tell you, you're a lucky man. You don't have to work it out for yourself. If she does tell you, always agree that she's right. And just one other bit of advice. Help around the house. There are no reported cases of husbands being killed by wives while they're washing up or vacuuming. I'm sure, on behalf of everybody here, can I wish the bride and groom a long, healthy and happy marriage. And may your troubles be only little ones. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and join me in a toast to Joe and Kate, the bride and groom. Thank you.